So in the article I mentioned this voice, MFMX Krazy 8 HarmSwp. This is kind of cool because it uses a programming trick in FM that I'm a real fan of because it does some cool things, and that's what we call the fixed frequency mode carrier. Let me play you what the sound is. So again, we have our harmonic sweep effect in the background doing the pseudo sync thing, but you also notice we've got this weird LFO tremolo thing going on that is changing in frequency as you can hold the notes. So we have this weird sort of hybrid tremolo gate going on along with our motion sequence doing our looped sweep effect. So let's go on in and look how we put this together. As I mentioned, this uses a favorite trick of fixed frequency carriers. I like using this for a lot of different reasons. In this example, we are utilizing our fixed frequency on operator 8. We're using the pitch envelope to change its frequency over time. You can see we have our algorithm of 4 pairs, so we're going to mute everything but ops 7 and 8. So the pitched portion of the sound is coming from operator 7, which is a normal sine wave with a ratio tuning of 1.0. And operator 8 is a fixed frequency set to 3.4954 Hertz. You can see I have an envelope shape, so it starts a little higher, peaks up, and then drops back down to that 3.4954 value. So let's hear what that sounds like in isolation. So this is the sine wave operator 7 modulator going through our fixed frequency carrier wave operator 8, which is set to a non-sine spectral wave. So let's put it to a sine to hear what that sounds like. So that's the sound of a sine wave passing through that low frequency sine wave. And because there's no harmonics, you can't really hear it, but there's a very, very minor tremolo effect going down that pulses at the rate of the fixed frequency carrier. Let's turn that back up to our original Alt2 wave. Now there's two things that have happened. One is you can actually really hear that pulsating effect changing in frequency as the pitch envelope goes up and down. And now there's some harmonic brightness. Well, you can see we're using skirt here, so let's turn that down. Again, without skirt, we don't have hardly any of our harmonics coming through, so that's why the brightness is not there. But the thing that's happening with the skirt as well as increasing the harmonics in the total sound is that each one of those harmonics will cause our beating effect of the sine wave of the modulator passing through it. And as we raise the skirt, we add more and more and more of those that add more beating opportunities, you could say, through it. So as we bring this in gradually, so remember, the Alt2 wave is a general structure of a sawtooth wave. As we increase the skirt, we hear a lot of those sawtooth harmonics. So now, essentially, we hear our sine wave modulator coming through our essentially sawtooth wave carrier. So now we're hearing a sawtooth-shaped behavior to amplitude that changes in speed with the frequency of our carrier operator. So one of the things that we can do here is we can change our values. Let's start really high. So you can hear when we start at the maximum of the range, giving our start value, this frequency is effectively up in the 1000 or 1500 hertz range, so it sounds much more like noise. than what we have for the original setting here. You can vary the characteristic of this by changing the spectral shape. If we go to the odd spectral shape, that of course gives us the square wave harmonic structure. So we're going to hear it slightly different. So our modulator wave is coming through a square wave shape instead of the sawtooth shape. Because of the way this is working, it sort of just doubles the frequency of that tremolo effect. So I also have some scenes programmed in here that use different motion sequence shapes. Here's scene 2. Here's scene 3. Now you can hear in that one I've got some continuous pitch mod going on, so it gives that zip zip sound like you heard in our initial discussion of our SynthSwp voice. Here's scene 4. Now use that sequence to really mellow out the effect. So one other tip that we discussed is how you can change certain timing characteristics of our motion sequences and other arpeggiators and things like that by using the ARP/MS assignment for all the knobs. So you can see here, instead of our knob parameters that you've seen on other things, we've got swing, unit, gate time, velocity, amplitude, shape, smooth, and random. So the amplitude and shape, smooth, and random apply only to the motion sequences. The swing, the gate time, and the velocity parameters apply to the arpeggiator. The unit can apply to either, depending on how things are set up. First thing, let's go over the shape parameter here. The shape parameter changes the value of those PRM1 and PRM2 settings in our motion sequence. So depending on what pulse shape that you have chosen, that can make changes in your sound. So here is our scene 2 again. Now we're going to change the shape. Go the other way here. So what's going on here is, again, we're changing those parameter 1 and parameter 2 settings for our motion sequence pulse A and pulse B. And now that occurs because in the motion sequence itself we have turned on the controller flag for that. So if you look into your motion sequence and you look at your individual sequences, you'll see each one has these control off or on for the various parameters. So for some of them I've decided to turn them on, others of course I haven't. And that's just choosing on what you want to change with these settings. So for example, in this motion sequence, parameter 1 changes the width of the threshold. So we go from a full step value to partial steps. So I can go from 100% all the way down to 0%. And on the other lane here, we've got the trapezoid setting, and I have both of them under control. So I can change the tilt of the leading edge and the trailing edge. So these are things that are going on by using that knob that controls the shape. So we've really built in a lot into that particular patch. We have a non-sinusoidal waveform fixed frequency to create an interesting pulsing and harmonic effect within the sound. We've got multiple motion sequences going on, doing these parameter changes with our operator frequency sweep, and we have turned on the control flag so we can actually change those shapes in real time.